Hi guys, Mimi G here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be working on one of my latest spring patterns, 9114. We're going to be sewing view C, our trousers. Now if you're new to sewing or you just need a refresher course, make sure and watch the Sewing Basics video linked in the description box below. Then come back and sew along with me. If you're completely new to sewing, I do have an online sewing and design school that you can join. We even have a free trial that you can sign up for at sewitacademy.com. All right guys, we're going to be working on 9114 view C, which is my trousers. Remember that on the back of the envelope you have a list of fabric suggestions, any notions like zippers or buttons that you're going to need, and of course your size and fabric yardage for each garment piece. Now let's go over the pattern pieces that you're going to need. You're going to cut out pattern piece number 22, which is our waistband. You're going to cut one of fabric and one of interfacing. You're going to cut out pattern piece number 20, which is the underlap. You're going to cut one. You're going to cut pattern piece number 19, which is our fly front. You're going to cut one of fabric and one of interfacing. You're going to cut pattern piece number 18, our pocket. You're going to cut 4. You're going to cut pattern piece number 17, which is the front of our pant. You're going to cut 2. And you're going to cut out pattern piece number 21, which is the back of our pants, and you're also going to cut out 2. Once you have everything cut out and interfaced, we can start sewing our pants. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and do some prep first. So take the back of your pants and go ahead and make your back darts. You'll probably notice that I also serged the crotch, back crotch of my back pants pattern. I also did the same thing for my front. So I went ahead and serged the front of both my front pieces. Now you're going to go ahead and make the pleats for the front. So you should have marked your lines. You're working towards your side seam, okay? So you're going to grab one line, bring it to the next, and then I just like to pin it in place. And then you'll take the next line and match it to the other line and pin it in place. You're going to do the same thing for your other front, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to stay stitch across, catching your pleats. Once you have your pleats stitched down, we're going to go ahead and start on the fly front. I want you to grab both of your fronts, and with right sides facing, we're going to place them over the top of each other, and we're going to stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance from the notch that you have up to your large dot. So make sure that you transferred that notch and that large dot so that you know exactly where to start and stop. I'm going to pin my large dot and I'm going to pin where my notch is. And I'm just going to stitch back stitching at the top and at the bottom using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. With the wrong side facing you, we're going to go ahead and snip at the large dot on the left side of your pants. So hold them up to your body just to make sure that you're working on your left side. That's where you're going to be clipping. And just below my large dot, I'm going to clip. I'm going to clip and stop just before my stitching. So don't clip through your stitching. Okay, now go ahead and flip your pants so that the right side of your fabric is facing you. And on my right, I'm going to go ahead and pin my fly. So match up your large dot. I'm going to pin. Also make sure you match up your notch. Now you're going to go ahead and stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. You're going to start at the top and you're going to stop at your dot. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start at the top using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I've put a pin at my blue dot because I want to remind myself exactly where to stop. Back stitch at the beginning and at the end. We're going to go ahead and trim our seam allowance down to 1/4 inch. And now you're going to go ahead and understitch. So with your seam allowance facing your fly, you're going to go ahead and understitch. Then we're gonna go ahead and grab our zipper. Okay, now working only on the side that has our fly, we're gonna go ahead and place our zipper face down. You're going to make sure that this side of your zipper tape is extending past your seam by 1/4 inch. And I'm gonna just pin in place. And we're gonna go ahead and we're going to stitch on the other side of our zipper tape through the zipper and our fly. I'm gonna back stitch at the beginning. And I'm sort of just stitching right along the middle. I'm gonna go ahead and open my zipper so I can stitch around my zipper pull. Okay, once you have sewn one side of the zipper tape to the fly, on the other side, you're going to press 3/8 of an inch. Then we're gonna go ahead and pin it to the other side of our zipper. So I'm gonna turn this to the right side. And I want this to lay flat. And I'm going to place the edge of my folded fabric, right, along the edge of my zipper tape so that it's very close to the zipper teeth, but not all the way. And I'm just gonna pin in place. I'm gonna do this while it's flat so that it doesn't shift. Once I know I have it in place, I can go ahead and open this up so I can move my zipper out of the way. And then I'll just continue doing the rest until I get to that dot. Now what you're going to do is you're going to head to the sewing machine and you're going to stitch along the edge. Okay, I went ahead and put my zipper foot in just so that I can see the edge of my fabric better. And I'm just going to back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Once you've stitched down the other side, you can go ahead and close your zipper and you'll notice you have the perfect amount of overlap to conceal your zipper. Now we're gonna go ahead and work on our fly shield. I'm gonna grab your fly shield. You're going to press it in half with right sides facing up, okay? So the wrong sides are facing each other. And you're gonna go ahead and serge along the bottom and along the top edge. Okay, I went ahead, pressed my underlap and serged the raw edges. Now I'm gonna go ahead and place it underneath, matching the notched edge. So it's gonna cover your zipper tape. And I'm gonna pin on the right side. And you're gonna make sure it's even all the way down and pin. And now you're gonna go ahead and follow your existing stitching. You're going to stitch through all thicknesses. Okay guys, so we have our shield in place. We're gonna go ahead and zip this up. And I'm gonna pin my very top through all layers just to keep it in place. Now, you wanna keep your fly shield completely out of the way, okay? So this needs to be completely out of the way. So I just pull it back and pin it so that I don't accidentally stitch it while I'm trying to do my top stitching. Now you may or may not be able to see this on camera, but I have a really light little mark where my fly is so that I can go ahead and use it as a guide for my top stitching. So let's go ahead over to the machine and top stitch our fly. Okay, so just to clarify, we're gonna be top stitching through the pant and the fly, but not your fly shield. So just make sure the fly shield is out of the way, but you are stitching through your fly. I'm gonna switch this back to my regular foot. And I'm just gonna follow my guide. Once your top stitching is done, what I like to do is I like to grab my fly shield and my fly, and making sure I'm not catching my pants, I like to stitch them together. So you'll see that I did a little bit of a tacking there, just so that when you open your zipper and close your zipper, this is a bit more secured. Now what we're gonna do is we're going to take the back pant and we're going to attach it at the inseam. All right, guys, we're gonna work on one side. You're gonna grab one back pant leg, you're gonna place it right sides facing, and we're going to stitch together our inseam. So go ahead and pin. Now you're gonna go ahead to your sewing machine and you're going to stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. You're gonna pin your other back leg to your other front leg and sew the inseam the same way. Okay guys, once you have gone ahead and sewn your inseams, we're gonna go ahead and close out the remaining crotch. So what I'm gonna do first is line up my inseam and pin. And then you wanna match up the notches on the back. And what we're gonna do is, starting at the top of the back, we're going to stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and you're going to stop at your notch where we had started our stitching before. So as soon as you get to your stitching, overlap by maybe 1/4 of an inch and back stitch. All right guys, now we're gonna go ahead and pin our pockets to our side seams. So starting with the front, I'm gonna move the back out of the way, and right sides facing, I'm going to match the notch on the side seam to the notch on the pocket, and you're going to pin. You're going to pin the other pocket to the other front, and then the other 2 pockets the same way to the right side of the back. We're going to stitch these down using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Go ahead and stitch down all 4 pockets. All right guys, once you have your pockets on, go ahead and press your seam allowance towards your pocket. You're going to lay your side seams right sides facing, also your pocket, and you're going to pin. So I have started pinning down along the hem, working my way up. I have pinned where my dots are, so you should have marked your dots, right? This is going to be your opening for your hand, so you're going to start and stop at both of these dots. And I also went ahead and pinned along the edge of my pocket, so I've pinned them together. I've done that to both sides. Now you're going to go to your sewing machine. You're going to start stitching at the bottom of the hem, okay? You're going to stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance along the entire side seam. You're going to stop and back stitch at your first dot. Then you're going to pick that back up at your second dot. You're going to start back stitch and then work your way till you reach the top of your pants and back stitch. After you've done that, you're going to go ahead and sew along the edge of your pocket, closing it up using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, guys, you're going to back stitch at the beginning. Again, I'm starting at my hem, working my way up. I'm going to stop at my dot and back stitch. Cut your thread. Back stitch at the other dot. Now we can go ahead and close out our pocket. Now you can go ahead and serge the edge of your pocket. You're going to sew your other side seam and pocket the same way. Okay guys, I went ahead and serged the edge of my pocket, and then I also went ahead and pressed my side seams, and I pressed my pocket towards the front and then just stitched it to the top so that it stays in place. Now what we're going to do is we're going to attach our waistband. On the unnotched edge of my waistband, I went ahead and pressed up 1/2 inch. And now we're going to go ahead and pin this to our pants. Once you're done pinning, you're going to head to your sewing machine and you're just going to stitch using 5/8 inch seam allowance, starting at the front, along the back, and to the other side. All right guys, once you have your waistband stitched, you're going to go ahead and press your seam up, and then we're going to go ahead and close out the front. So go ahead, press your seam up, and then once you do that, you're going to fold your waistband in half. We're going to go ahead and close out the front end of our waistband. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close out my front. So I'm going to place my needle right along the edge of my pant. I'm going to give myself just a tiny bit of room, and then we're going to stitch all the way up, back stitch at the top and at the bottom. You're going to trim this off, and then you're going to close the other front the same way. Okay guys, we're almost finished. You're going to go ahead and turn this to the right side. And now we're going to pin our waistband so that we can stitch in the ditch. So what you're going to do is you're going to be pinning on the right side, but you're going to be making sure that the folded edge is just past your stitching line. And then on the right side, you're going to go ahead and pin. Now, from the right side, you can sort of feel that little bumpy edge, but I like to just double check on both sides. You're going to go ahead and pin the entire waistband this way. All right guys, we're going to be stitching in the ditch, which just means that you want your needle to fall right in between this seam here so it's almost invisible. If you have a blind hem foot, it can sometimes be much easier to use it. In the event that most people may not have it, I'm just going to go ahead and show it to you with your regular presser foot. The front might be a little bulky because remember you have your zipper and extra seam allowance there, so just go slowly. And you're just going to be stitching again, trying to make sure your needle stays right into that seam line, catching the underneath waistband. You're going to continue stitching in the ditch until you reach the other end. All right guys, once you have your waistband stitched, you can go ahead and give it a good press. Now the only thing left for you to do is to make your buttonhole according to whatever instructions you have for whatever sewing machine you have, and sew on your button. After you do your buttonhole, the only thing left for you to do is to finish your hem. So you're going to go ahead and try your pants on, and if you need to take them in a little bit more at the hemline to make them shorter, depending on however your personal preference is, then you can go ahead and do that. You can either do a double fold hem, or you can serge, turn under your seam allowance, and either hand stitch this so it's blind or stitch it with your machine. Then you are all done. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed that sew along. Make sure and tag me on Instagram at MimiGStyle and use hashtag MimiGPatterns. Until next time, peace.